Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC. A lot of things are happening since the last time I've been on, so we're getting a bit of movement even there. A lot more rumours coming out, a lot more solid rumours. Arsenal making moves now. They've signed their new manager. We'll touch on that towards the end of this show, and we'll have a proper show on that tomorrow with Matt and a couple of other guests as well. But the topic of tonight is obviously Christian Press and Toby Heath. Bit of an appreciation show, so they've been absolutely massive for us this season on and off the field. We've managed to meet fans like Marty and a lot of other United States fans because of this, and I think it's been a fantastic season all round. So when it comes to like the American fan base and what they've brought us, so I'm really looking forward to catching up with Marty again. On that note, how you doing, Marty?
Doing well. How's it going there?
Yeah, not too bad. It's not too bad over here. Natalie's not with us today. She's actually having a week off. She's out in London. Now, I've heard that she's trying to say hello to the new Arsenal manager or trying to get Beth Mead up here, but I'm not too sure if that's true. It could just be Twitter talk. It could just be rumours. But, yeah, absolutely. So Natalie's having a week off. But, as always, Ben's here on a Monday night. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good, mate. I'm really well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Just got back home from work a couple of hours ago, so I'm just getting ready for this one now. Thank you to John Fry in the comments. Karen, as always, thank you very much. Yeah, so let's get cracking then. So obviously, the announcement was made, I think, last Thursday or Friday, and I wouldn't say it was a surprise because I think the last few months was kind of leaning towards Press and Heath are going to go now, but that doesn't mean that we didn't want them to stay or kind of hoping that it was going to stay. So Marty, let's come over to yourself first. When that announcement was made, were you shocked? What were your thoughts?
I wasn't necessarily shocked, but I was disappointed because I did want them to stay, at least for another season. Two reasons. One, I think that Kristen would have been able to show the WSL what Kristen shows the United States Women's National Team fans. Okay, because I think that she needed to get the lay of the land, in terms of how to play in the WSL. I always found that her touches were a bit too slow. Like she thought she had 2 touches to be able to do, and she really only had time for 1. And by the time she got to the second touch, it was, she had lost the ball or it had been picked. Okay, Tobin got injured. Okay, and what annoys me personally about that is she wasn't injured in a game. She was injured on the training pitch, and she was injured twice when she was coming back from the ankle. Then she injured her knee on the training pitch, and I think at that point she was just like, okay, this is not good for me, and I've got the Olympics coming up. And then she bolted to the US to be able to rehab then. So I was just disappointed. Once Casey left, the probability, if you were going to do odds, the odds of them re-signing had diminished drastically because Casey is going to be one of the great managers, okay, whether she's in England or she's a national team manager for some country or she's an NWSL manager. She's just going to be a great manager. She's a good player manager. She has good instincts on strategies because every time they would come in at halftime and then they come out again, you could tell that there were strategy changes and they were effective. Their second half was so much better than their first half if their first half wasn't good. Okay, they don't necessarily change on the dime in terms of within the half, but at halftime, whatever chatter she had, or okay, you figured this, the players are chattering and they're telling each other what's working, what's not working, but it comes from the manager. I mean, they're not going to be opening up their mouths if the manager doesn't give them an environment to talk in, So, and once she left, and it all came out in terms of how they were actually treating the players and what the players' facilities, the women's facilities were, I was like, oh, buggers, that's not good. The U.S. soccer did not get the memo. So everything associated with when they were named on the Olympic team, it was associated with Manchester United. and it came out the next day or 2 days after. And it was at that point that they are considered unattached, okay, is the phrase that gets used in the U.S. It's not the first time that the women's players who go to the Olympics have been unattached, because we're, I think, on our third league, okay, in terms of women's soccer, which, yes, keep calling it soccer, but it gets really confusing over here if you call it football. And so I do think the NWSL is here to stay. And they, Tobin doesn't need a team for the NWSL. I'm not unsurprised that Kristen hasn't started playing, because once you start playing for a team, especially if it's one that owns your rights, it's a lot harder to leave that team. So if you don't want to play and stay, you don't play at all. Okay, because once you sign your name on your contract that you're accepting, the offer of playing, because what happens is if they played in the NWSL, they have to play for Racing, Louisville. They have to play for them because Racing Louisville has the rights to them. So it's sort of like a union. I don't know. Do you have unions in England?
Not within football, not that I'm aware of.
No, any unions.
Oh, we got unions like in a workplace.
Okay, so if you're in a carpenter's union and a plumber needs the wrench, the carpenter doesn't hand the plumber the wrench because it's against union rules. The plumber's got to get his own wrench.
Yeah.
Okay, so if she picks up a ball, goes onto the pitch for Racing Louisville, she's playing for Racing Louisville. And then it's a matter of trying to get them to trade her and to agree to trade her. You see? So it's better for Kristen that she just doesn't do it. She just doesn't do it at all.
I'm gonna let you come I'm gonna let you come up for air, Marty, because I know that you can talk, and I want to, but I just want to just let you have a quick break and just answer this question on the screen, because this has come up a couple of times. I think the answer is probably going to be no, but it's just a guess. I don't know. But can Marty see Preston Heath coming back to United after the Olympics? There's no football for them. It
depends upon who the manager is going to be and what Manchester United's management says, how they're going to address the training facilities and how they're going to treat the women's team. Yeah, I can see them come back. They don't need a team for the summer. Yeah. The U.S. women's national team is, in fact, right now, all the ones who got selected for the Olympics are no longer playing in the NWSL. They had their last game this past weekend on Saturday, and they were out until after the Olympics. Rachel Daly, who is on the Great Britain team, is gone. Houston won't have her for the entire summer because it's unreasonable for her to be flying back and forth. And they basically said, it's like, we want her. She needs to train, and we're going to the Olympics. So they don't need to play on a team this summer. Now, at the end of the Olympics, depending upon what happens in the NWSL, who's going to be named manager of LA? We already know Jill Ellis is going to be president, and whatever the CEO of the San Diego expansion team is. Do they want to play for Jill Ellis? I'm not sure. Jill Ellis, you either loved playing for her and you loved her, or you didn't want any part of it. And if you want a dissertation on that, ask Carly Lloyd, because the best thing that Carly Lloyd feels happened was that Jill Ellis retired and Flacco came in. Otherwise, her little bottom would be sitting in New Jersey through the Olympics this year. There is no way Ellis was going to name her to the Olympics. That's not, believe me, that's not an opinion. That was like a common fact. So I think it all depends. If they get a manager that Tobin and Kristen are looking at, it's like, yeah, we want to play for that person. Manchester United steps up and makes it, all red, one red, their catchphrase, which I'm convinced they haven't quite read yet. It's definitely a possibility. I would not rule it out. Now, if Manchester United's owners basically say, hey, we're doing fine, we're on the same track, we don't need to push this, we don't need to accelerate the timeline on this. We always thought we had a 5-year deal, and we need to have certain things in place. There are other things that have a priority over, giving the women a decent training pitch and a decent training facilities, and they just painted Old Trafford, right? So I'm not sure. Old Trafford's definitely got a higher priority than anything else. So that's what you're going to need. Those pieces have to be in place, and then at that point I could see, hey, if it's a fabulous manager, yeah, why not? Why wouldn't they? Yeah, I tell you, if Casey Stoney ends up being the manager for LA, the Angel City, I that's pretty much where everybody's think they're going to go. But both of them on the same team, that's very expensive, and I'm not sure if that would work within the rules of the NWSL. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just, you always have to be very creative when it comes to players with an umbrella. We have literally an umbrella for every team, so you don't get to outspend somebody in the U.S. Unless you're the Yankees.
We'll go on to a little bit about Casey, where she might end up and where Tobin and Kristen might end up, because there's a possibility that they might reunite a little bit maybe next season. So we'll talk a little bit about that shortly. But let's just bring Ben in here. We spoke a little bit about maybe Preston Heath could have stayed. Obviously, that's not the case now. But when do you think, Ben, that this might have actually been decided then? Do you reckon it would be pretty much towards maybe like when we knew Casey was going? Do you reckon like the players might have known as well, but just didn't really say it? Or do you reckon it's been going on for quite a while, or do you think it's been quite sudden?
I think it would have been when Casey said that she was leaving. I think they probably would have thought, yeah, that's it, that's us done. We'll go back to America now. But just listen to Marty there. The way the Americans do the leagues is just absolutely confusing. It really is. There, I mean, these own these own them. It's like bloody hell, It's just the way that they do things over in America. Everything baffles me, and this is why I was against the Super League being formed, because that's what they wanted to form in the European Super League, something like this, close competitions and all that. But yeah, that's another discussion for another time. But yeah, listen, I think in the case of Tobin and Kristen, I think it's definitely when Casey said, "Listen, I'm going." And Marty's right, exactly. The training facilities were top notch. They had to squeeze them into Carrington at the Aon Training Complex during the winter, because obviously the training facilities at LSV are not really the best during the winter. A lot of it's AstroTurf and whatever, It's just, I don't know. It's a shame, really. It's a shame, because we'd have loved to see them playing in front of us at Old Trafford, in front of fans. Sorry, not Old Trafford, LSV, in front of fans. And it's just a shame that we don't get to see them in the flesh with our own eyes. Playing in the famous red shirt. It's hopefully something could be done after the Olympics for a couple of months or something, or But again, it's all depending on what's happening on their end of the pond, what's happening on their side of things, and obviously whatever clubs they're tied to, they've got to have to agree with it and all that lot. So it's just really a big shame, really, for me, because I would have loved to have seen them play live, just even if it's just one game. I'd have loved to have seen them play live in the flesh, but it is what it is, really. And in terms of Old Trafford, they have been giving it a lick of paint. This about time too, because the thing's crumbling apart. That was once the crown jewel of English football. Now it's just a crumbling mess. Yeah. Getting left behind, even by Liverpool. Liverpool stadium's just as old as United. Liverpool have been maintaining their stadium quite well. So it's just a shame it's come to this. It's had to come to this, to get United to wake up, to get United to look into the training facilities, to look into the to the facilities they're giving to the women's side. Because let's be fair, LSV is a great stadium. Yes, it's not in Manchester, it's in Wigan, but it's a great stadium. It's probably one of the best in the league, to be fair. The pitch, even though they play rugby league on it, the pitch is absolutely pristine. You've seen it, John, you've seen it. It's absolutely pristine every match. Never, nothing ever. We've been to pitches, where, say, for example, Liverpool women share their ground with Tranmere Rovers. By winter time, that pitch is an absolute mud bath. You can't be playing football on it this day and age, professionally. So it's a huge wake-up call for Manchester United. First losing Casey Stoney, losing the Americans, because I am absolutely pretty damn sure that if Casey was still here, was still manager, they would have possibly looked at staying for at least another 6 months, at the very, very least, to at least January time, to see how it was going and see how the league was, see how United were taking it, see who United would be signing in the summer. It's just one big mess, isn't it? The club at the minute, it's going to be a huge job for whoever comes in to get United motoring again. But listen, it's a big shame about Preston Heath, and I wish him well. I do. Honestly, I wish him well back across the pond again, and I hope they do well in the Olympics, the national side. But it's just a big shame, really, for us in a way.
Yeah, well, Marty, you were saying before we went on air that potentially if Casey had stayed, they would have stayed, and that's kind of my hope as well. That's what I thought. Do you want to kind of give your say on that as well? Marty, you were just saying that you was kind of.
I'm sorry. I thought you asked Ben to comment. I really, the reason they came was because of Casey Stoney. They do their research. They're not rookies. They've been playing soccer and playing football and internationally and also league-wise for quite a while. They've been they've played internationally. He's played at PSG. Press played at Sweden, a couple of leagues there and won championships. So they know the score. I mean, they're not just coming out of college and this is their first professional job. So they do their research as to where they wish to go. If they weren't happy in Manchester, they wouldn't have commented in a effusive manner. Okay, the best use is if you can't say nothing nice, you don't say nothing at all. Okay, is the way it goes. And so you could actually tell that they really enjoyed Manchester. They enjoyed playing for Manchester United. They enjoyed being the sort of veterans within the team and having, because Manchester United has a very young team. In terms of a lot of people came up through the academy, a lot of the girls, and so they were, they really loved that aspect of it. To pass along, their ideas, their tips, and they know, like who's not going to watch them in terms of seeing how they do what they do. Okay, if you want to be a footballer for a long time, you're going to watch the best, and you're going to try to figure out how they're doing. Why do they do that? Why do they make those decisions? You're just going to do it because you want to be better. So I just think that if Casey had stayed, if the facility was decent, in terms of it didn't have to be pristine, but if it was decent, they wouldn't have had a complaint. They really wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So, but so that's what I'm thinking. I mean, they're going to be both going to the Olympics. I think it's telling also that Tobin is not going to be number 17 in the Olympics. Remember, the Olympics only have 18 players. So the numbers used are 1 through 18. Kristen Press is normally number 23, so she had to change her number. She's selected 11.
Yeah.
But Tobin goes as 17, has been 17 since she's been a senior member and is not a junior member of the national team, and has been 17 on every professional team she's played on, except for Manchester United, where she couldn't get, so she became 77. She's no longer going to be 17. She's going to be 7. So she's still not happy with the way Portland Thorns treated her, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, okay? That's not something I read or that she has said and I have heard about. Okay. That's just me thinking, hey, if she was really happy with the situation in the U.S. with the NWSL and how that all came about and what had happened, she'd have no problem. That's her number. That's been her number for years. She's not so happy about the whole, it's not copacetic. So that's why I don't think it's not a bad idea that if they name a manager that is, in their opinion and the players' opinions, a really excellent player manager and has great, ideas in terms of strategies, and Manchester United steps up and treats the women fairly, yeah, I could see them back. Definitely for the 6 months until NWSL starts and they end up, their rights get, settled, because that is a bit murky.
That will be because it'll be a big shock and a big morale boost if all of a sudden they announce that, towards the end of the transfer window, they're coming back for a few months just on loan. At least then as fans as well, we could get to give them a bit of a send-off. I think it was John Fry in the comments who said, it would be nice for us to have been able to say goodbye, even if it was just one game. Marty, I thought it was really interesting what you said, and I want to touch on this a little bit more about other players learning off them. We have got a very young team. We've brought in a lot of youngsters. We've started off the originals in the first season. They were very young. Preston Heath brought a lot more than just being a good player on the pitch, didn't they? They brought that leadership, but they also brought a lot of coaching behind the scenes. And who do you think would have maybe listened to them the most or reacted to them the most? Because I think everyone would have got. I
think Leslie Russo, Ella Tooney. I think Lauren James to a degree. Though I think Lauren James already has a mindset of what she plans on doing, but I do think that she would pay, she pays attention. She, because she's a very intelligent girl. I mean, Lauren James. I mean, that's the impression I get from her. So she really knows what she wants, and then it's a matter of how can she put herself in that position to get what she wants. Okay. And women have to really think. It's unfortunate because the playing field isn't fair for women. Women really have to put a lot of thought into where to put for their careers to last and for them to have the best environment for them to grow. Okay, because things aren't as fair. I mean, who's it? Hampton just left. Hannah Hampton just left. She's not coming. And she's an up and coming goalie. So maybe she just felt like she needs another bigger team that has a bit more exposure for her things. I do agree with John Fry in terms of Kirsty Hansen. The other one is Leah Golton. I do not believe that because Leah Golton used to be in the NWSL. She played for what's now Gotham. She played for the New York, New Jersey team. And so I think that she's played against them and she's played, now she's played with them, and playing against especially Heath is not fun. It's really not fun when she's got the ball and she's got a mission. And sometimes she just wants to teach you a lesson, It's not fun. She's that good, and she's someone who can definitely break down defenses when nobody else can. Because anytime she has her, the ball at her feet, she's got at least 3 players on her. And if she's got 3 players on her, then there are other outlets who have nobody on her. And that's how the U.S. has made as much as, has earned as many, medals and awards and keeps winning, Ben,
I remember when Preston Heath first signed and we started to learn a little bit about US soccer and the NWSL and the people that we were getting on to kind of help us. They were all talking about the winning mentality and the physical strength, the non-stop, the work rate and everything like that. And we really saw that, didn't we, with Preston Heath? There was, I said leadership earlier, but that winning mentality, where nothing but the best will do every minute of that game. And we saw it against City in the derby more than anything, but just throughout the whole season, I think if you speak to a United fan, what did Press and Heath give us? Yeah, you could talk about experience and that wow factor, but more than anything, they were winners, weren't they?
Yeah, of course, mate. And I think it was. I think a lot of our players, especially younger ones, would have soaked that up like a sponge, mate. Just that winning mentality, just that sheer drive and will to win. I likened it back in the day to the Bruno Fernandes and the effect that he had on the men's team. That's somebody that has that drive, that will and drive to win at all costs. That someone that takes the game passionately, that is a leader on the field of play. And I do believe, especially Tobin Heath was a big, massive leader up until her injury, where unfortunately, it sort of went a bit pear-shaped after that for United in terms of when we came back off the winter break, things weren't going as well on the field of play. And I think that's down to losing Tobin Heath in a big way, because if you look at before that, when we had Tobin Heath and everything, we was flying, we was top of the league, we're flying. This United side were playing good football. Yes, we weren't scoring too many. We were still lacking a bit up front, still lacking that clinical edge up front, but still... we still always found a way to win the game, or to pick up as many points as we could out of games, and that was due to mainly, I think, down to Tobin Heath's experience and leadership. Kristen Press is another one, and again, I do believe that she brought a decent amount of leadership and experience in. But for me, I think Tobin Heath was the one out of the two of them that sort of was what I think everybody were looking up to. And you could tell on the pitch as well when Tobin was on there that the players that they were looking up to her. There was, looking to her leadership, looking to her guide. Players like Ella Toon especially, was thriving at the start of the season and throughout the first half of the season when Heath was on the field of play. Leah Galton was flying. Although she did have a little bit of a slow start to the season by her usual high standards. She was flying. The whole team was in a really, really good place. It just takes that one injury the two separate injuries that Marty mentioned earlier on. It just takes them two separate injuries that unfortunately we lost Heath for the rest of the season, and I think that was a big sort of kick in the teeth for United in a way, because you've lost that leader, the player that possesses the know-how. Because even a young side still needs players that possess the know-how and the ability and the experience. Because you look back at 1995 when Man United lost the league, when Eric Cantona was banned, still quite a young side there, and you lose your talisman, you lose your leader on the field, you lose the person that you look up to the most, and it's hard to get that back. It's hard to get to keep on winning, to keep, especially when things start going wrong and don't start going right for you on the field of play, and results start slipping a little bit. You don't have that talisman type figure, which that's what Heath was for me, and I don't want people to think that I didn't like Kristen Press. I did like Kristen Press, but for me, the one that really impressed me the most was Tobin Heath and the leadership. And I think, and that's why we struggled a lot, because remember we had Kristen Press for the last half of the season as well, and I think Press was starting to come into her own towards the latter half of the season. But by that time, games were running out. We didn't, but I just feel like the leadership side of things, that's where we lack when we miss them on the field, especially Tobin. And it's not easy to get that back as well. When results start sliding, you're looking, and you haven't got your talisman on the field, you haven't got your Tobin Heaths on the field, to gather everybody around, to give them a little word of inspiration. It can be quite hard. And I think, especially for a young team, that have had the first half of the season, they've always looked up to a Tobin Heath, a Kristen Press. And all of a sudden, the pressure's then all on Kristen Press, because everybody's looking towards her and going, well, you're a World Cup winner. You're one of the biggest stars in world football. What can you do for her? So I remember Manchester United shirts weigh heavier than most. It's either you've got it or you haven't got it. And sometimes to put it all on one player, like we see it with Bruno Fernandes in the men's team, you put it all on one player. They can't always do it all by themselves. They can't always dig you out. They can't always come up with that magic. Football is a team sport at the end of the day. It's not an individual sport. So we need to figure a way around that, and we're going to have to think and figure that out fast, because obviously next season we won't have Press or Heath. So we have to then look at who's going to be the next player to come in, or the next player that we've got within our ranks to come in and come and be a leader and show the way forward for this young side, because that's what we desperately need. And, you know, you can pin things on different players and saying this player should have done this job, should have done that job. But at the end of the day, when you lose a big leader like Tobin Heath, and your season's not good, especially the second half of the season, like with Differ United, is it going well? It's like wrestling against a massive way up to get back into the right direction, and that's unfortunately what happened with United. We did well to finish fourth. We was only a point behind Arsenal that finished third in the third spot for the Champions League. So we're not as bad as some people make out, but we need to keep on learning. We need to keep evolving now. We're not going to have Preston Heath next, unless they do come back after the Olympics for a certain set of time. We're not going to have them next season. So we need to make sure we take everything that we've learned from them for the short period of time that they stay with Manchester United, and make sure we just we put into practice what they would have taught everybody, what they would have. I wouldn't say. Maybe the legacy that they left is probably maybe a bit of a stronger word, but certainly the style that they left, you know, because they would have left a little bit of style. They would have left a decent impression on everybody, just in terms of the work rate and in terms of how they play the game of football and how they are leaders on a football field. So long as we take that and put it into practice for next season, it'll stand us in good stead, I'm sure.
One thing I want to add to what Ben was saying is that, you know, he mentioned that, you know, Heath got hurt twice. So you figure you don't know what goes on in the practices, and you don't know how much, you know, they're helping, you know, the teams in terms of breaking out. You know, within the team, I'm quite sure they break out in groups. You know, you have the defenders, you have the midfielders, you've got, you got the forwards, you've got the goalies, you know. You don't know what went on there and how much they helped, you know, just by the others watching them in terms of how they go about a practice, you know. And what happened is she was recovering. She was doing very, very well with the ankle injury, and then injured her knee on top of it. So how did that happen? And then it was at that point when her knee was injured that she came back to the U.S. So then all of a sudden after the second injury, she wasn't there at all. So even when she was rehabbing the ankle, you know that she was probably, because when she was in the stands, Heath can't keep her mouth shut when it comes to, you know, either encouraging or telling you what you ought to be doing. I mean, she's going to be a natural coach somewhere, you know, eventually. So you could hear her, you know, you could hear her yelling. You could hear her where their position ought to be. You could hear encouragement in terms of you got this, or, you know, you attack, you keep attacking. And that's just, I mean, so they lost a lot when essentially she hurt her knee, looked at it, say, okay, I got to recover for the Olympics. And I'm not exactly sure. I wouldn't be surprised if she had a phone call from Vlatko saying, you know, get back to the U.S. because if you get on that pitch again, you hurt yourself again, you're not going to the Olympics. You just won't have enough time to recover, you know, because it seemed like the knee injury was a bit worse than the ankle injury. At least that's the impression I got. There was a question earlier about the Olympics. If the U.S. women's team wins the Olympics, the gold medal, there will not be a tour. And the reason is because it's a national, like, it's not like the World Cup where the only team playing is the women's national team. We've got the women's basketball team. We got the men's basketball team. You got track and field. You have all the swimmers. What will happen is, the entire Olympic team usually gets invited to the White House. Now that Biden is president, people will actually go. Also, wherever they're from, they will probably throw out the first pitch of a baseball game. So if they originally are from the New England area, they will throw out for Red Sox. If they're from Colorado, like Haran, she'll be throwing out a pitch for the Rockies. If they're from LA, they'll be the Dodgers or Angels, whatever their association or preference or favorite team that the teams know about, they will invite them to come and throw out a pitch or celebrate them, whatever. And that happens with all the athletes, all the Olympic athletes who medal and who, really do very, very well. They get a lot of love from other professional sports. It's a courtesy. It's just a professional courtesy. Regarding our teams and the way they're held, the leagues here, you have to remember that soccer is probably not it's not a well followed sport in the US, so it's not the grassroots, you play for your club, down the block, and then eventually you get really, really good and you play for the professional team. It's not like that at all. It's if anything, it's you figure out what college you want to go to, you get the scholarship, you play for the college. If you're good enough, you play for a team, maybe the national team. Then you go and you finish your education, or you go and get your graduate degree and you do something professionally in that arena. So because soccer isn't, we don't have the salaries you all have. I was looking at salaries for European players, and I was just like, whoa, those are baseball salaries. Those are basketball salaries. Those aren't soccer salaries. So.
Okay. Now's a good time to talk a little bit about the Olympics then before we move back on to Manchester United, and we'll touch on Arsenal as well for what they've been doing today. Surely they're favourites, Marty. And Ben mentioned it earlier, the way press ended the season and the way press is going at the moment for her national team. What are your thoughts going into the Olympics? Surely you must be going in thinking that you at least going to make the final.
Really? No, you know who we're playing? First up, we are playing Sweden.
That's okay.
If there was ever a team that it's the banana peel. It is just the banana peel, Sweden. If there's a team that I don't know, Man United, the men's team, or going into Euros, and there's that one team that it doesn't matter, okay, how well you're playing, that team just matches up against you well. Think about it this way: since we won the World Cup, okay, the women's national team won the World Cup. We've played all these games. We hired Vlatko. Joe Ellis retired, and Vlatko came on. We have tied once. We have not lost a match, and we've had one tie, and that one tie is Sweden. Sweden knocked us out of Rio. That is the first time we have never made the finals in the Olympics. Okay? We have as many Olympic gold medals as we have World Cups in this country. Heath has 2. She's been going to the Olympics. This is her fourth Olympics. She had gold in Beijing, gold in London, and zilch in Rio. Rio was a extremely, extremely sour taste in the mouth. When you're like a top of the heap, it really does not taste well, especially when we don't get beat in the games. We get beat in shootouts. World Cup 2011, we get beat in the darn shootouts. You don't beat the U.S. because you beat them during the 90 minutes. You beat the U.S. because you can beat them in the shootouts. That's where we get beat. It makes no sense.
We had Mia Eriksson on the show a couple of weeks ago. She's a journalist. I think it's from Sweden, and she was really speaking very highly of the national team. And she was saying how well structured Sweden is in developing talent and getting the foundations in place. But because it's not as rich, and because it's not as high profiled, it doesn't really kind of get the love, I guess, and the gratitude maybe that he should get. But it's very nice just to hear, obviously, you shout out Sweden. I think a lot of people will be wanting Sweden to win quite a few games, because I do think that they are a country that people will want to get behind. Yeah. Just what are your thoughts on Heath and Press in the Olympics? What do you reckon? What are you hoping to see from them? What do you think you'll see from them?
I think that, okay, the other thing is Sweden was in our group of World Cup, okay, and that's okay, and we beat them. But the reason we beat them was because we met them last. The schedule is, we have to play Australia, we have to play New Zealand, we have to play Sweden. We're playing Sweden first, so that first win is what everybody's going to be going for. It may end up in a tie, okay? It may be a draw, which is acceptable in group play, okay? You figure, and the big thing is Australia, whether because it's the top two and then the third. With regards to Heath and Pratt, the big, I wouldn't say it's controversy, but the big chatter is Tobin makes the team. Is she going to start? Because the top three, the front three for World Cup and for most of the national teams when everybody's healthy is Rapinoe, Morgan, and Heath. Okay, Rapinoe's always on that left side. Heath is always on that right side, and Morgan trails the middle. Okay, the only start that Press got for the World Cup was when Rapinoe had a hamstring injury, issue, and she started against England. If it wasn't for Rapinoe's hamstring, Press would never have started. It would have been Rapinoe. Okay. Now that Press is basically kicking everybody's butt, okay, on the field and is just scoring out of her mind. And it's not like she hasn't been, because she has the highest percentage of goals and assists per game, I believe, of any current player. How do you keep her on the bench? How do you do that? Are you going to be sitting Alex Morgan? I'm unsure about that because she is tearing up the NWSL right now. All right. And the main reason she is because she doesn't want to be sitting on the bench. She has to prove to Vlatko that she belongs in that front three. Rapinoe is Rapinoe. You're going to have her in there because 1, her leadership, 2, her calmness, and in 3, she just is magical with the ball at her foot. So I don't think, so the big thing is will Heath make the team in terms of will she be a full player and not be swapped off from an alternate due to injury? Yes, I do believe that she will be up and playing and in full fitness. Will she be 90-minute fitness? No, they're not going to play her 90 minutes. Will she come in? Yeah, she and Carly Lloyd may be the ones coming in. Okay, in the first go round that they come in, but she's probably only going to be playing a half, and that's okay. You've got every 3 days. I mean, it's a horrendous, very arduous. It's more arduous than the World Cup because you have X number of games every 3 days, and you only have a roster of 18. Right now, I know that Vlatko had said that some of the other countries were requesting that they extend the roster to be 22, which would include the 4 alternates. And I really think it would be a smart thing to do, especially with the COVID situation. I mean, imagine this. Someone tests positive and you literally have to self-isolate, but everybody you've been connected with, okay, is now at risk as well. Yeah. So I do think that that's the smart thing to do. I think that it might be a late decision on Tokyo's part, on the IOC's part, because it's only one sport that's affected. Okay. And so they don't like doing things when it's the one sport and the one body that's affected. They tend to be like, no decision's a good decision. It's like one of those things. It's like, we don't want to mess with anything. That's a precedent. Then in 4 years, everybody's going to be on our case again. But COVID-19, what? Pandemic comes every 100 years. I don't think they have anything to worry about if they make a decision based on COVID-19 situation. So how do I think the U.S. will do? I am hoping that we get past Sweden. And believe me, if we get past Sweden, Australia and New Zealand are just in trouble because then it's basically the gates are open and we're just kicking everybody's butt. I'm glad Spain's not in it. Okay, because the 3 European are GB, Sweden, and Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not scared of Netherlands at all because they just don't match up with us offensively.
Okay.
They're very defensive minded. Okay, they don't match up offensively with us. Sweden just play us well. It's like it's like that. It's like they just fit us well. I don't know why they do, but they just do, and they have for years. I mean, we're not talking like the last 5 years. We're talking like the last 20. Okay, in terms of Sweden, it doesn't matter what tournament we go into. We always end up facing Sweden at some point in that tournament, and it's always we just hope it's just not a critical game when we do it. Like the last game of group play at the World Cup, it was so like it didn't matter. We were both. It was just going to be which side, which draw you got. Whether you got the England France or you got the Netherlands, Sweden side. That's all it came down to. So and the U.S. doesn't think like that. The U.S. doesn't think, oh, well, we get this draw. We have we have a safer place to go, safer path to get. We don't think like that. We think like, okay, that's the goal. We'll go through you to get to the goal. No problem.
We'll finish up talking about the Olympics despite answering this question on screen. What about USA versus Team Man City GB?
Not worried about them.
No,
I'm sorry. I'm just not worried about it. I do not think Team GB was the best pick. The players that they picked and the way they're training.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it's the. I'm sorry. I don't see where they bettered their position. I just don't see it. Are the players great? Yeah, the players are great. You got great players in England. You got great players in the Wales and Scotland. You had a great pool of players. I'm probably missing a country there, but you got 4 countries. You got great players in all 4 countries. Okay, were they the best team to select? Is the question, and I don't think it was. I think you've got basically great players. That doesn't mean they play together. I don't know what double figures for USA is. I don't know what that means, John.
It just means you're going to win 10-0, two digits.
Oh,
1-0. Yeah.
Thailand didn't make it, so I don't think so. You need it's like one of those countries that it's a shot in the dark. They made it, but they just got there because the competition within their side of the world isn't as competitive. Okay, is that if we're on a roll, we're on a roll. Right now we're not quite sinking. We don't have all the pistons going for the. I'm not sure about the agree to disagree. I'm guessing it's the GB team opinion. Yeah. Okay, that's okay. I respect that. I mean, there are a lot of great players on there. I just don't think they got the team. That they all fit together and they all play well together. The idea is you want to get a team that the team is greater than the parts. And I'm not exactly sure they did that. Okay, that's a little. I would have picked a couple of different key players.
I think a few would, Marty. I think from what I've heard and seen of other people who know other clubs more than myself, they would have thought picking a slightly different team as well. Yeah. Ben, let's finish up.
Other thing that worries me is they don't have a great schedule for practicing. Every time they schedule somebody to practice, it ends up getting canceled, and all they're doing is playing against themselves.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure that's great. They've got to be able to pull something together, and that worries me. That happens a lot.
But let's finish up talking a little bit about Man United after Preston Heath, and then we'll talk a little bit about Arsenal just before we finish.
They got a lot of work to do, don't they?
We do. But Ben, what's your thoughts on the fact that obviously now Preston Heath, which means that we've got one less attacker, one less winger, one less creative person, I guess you can kind of say. Is it the end of the world? Because I was quickly saying my thoughts because I've kind of let you guys chat away here, especially Marty. You want to come on the show once every couple of months, so it's always great to hear you talk. But I think for myself, I think Preston Heath have been absolutely fantastic for us. I don't think they probably scored the amount of goals that we would have liked. I'm talking more about Press there than Heath, but that's not really a dig or anything, because I think they've done a lot more for us behind the scenes than actually on the actual pitch for those 90 minutes, in my opinion. And yeah, our front line is going to be 100% weaker next season. No matter who comes in, I would much rather have definitely Tobin Heath and the way Christian Press ended the season and is now playing. Of course, you'd want those in your squad. And it is a massive loss. But for me, I think going forward, I think Leah Galton, I still believe that she's the best left winger in the country. So I'd still go for. I'm still happy with Galton there. Russo, we've only seen a little bit of her, but what we have seen of her has been good. I think she started off the season really well. I think Russo in her prime was just as good as Press in her prime at Man United, at least. Obviously not in a career, but at least at Man United. And I think you're just lacking that right winger at the moment to compete with Kirsty Hansen. So I think squad depth will definitely miss Heath and Press. But starting 11, maybe not. I think I'd probably put Heath in there over Hansen, but would I have put Press in there over Russo? Well, over the last 12 months, probably not at the moment. So, Ben, what are your thoughts on, obviously, now we've got to move on from Press and Heath. Are you slightly worried?
There's always going to be that slight worry, isn't there? I think, we were trusting people that that really let us down in a way, let the football club down, let Casey Stoney down in a big way over the last 6-12 months, whatever it may be, whatever timeline it may have been. So we're going to make sure we get it absolutely spot on, get it right. So if whoever comes in, whoever the new manager is that comes in, we're giving them the best opportunity, the best available selection that we can give him or her to go out and get us motoring again, because we need to start off strongly. Because if we start off slowly and things are struggling, then you're going to get fans complaining. And I know you did a couple of short videos yesterday on the Twitter page about fans and their expectations, and people are starting to whinge and moan. And we've had it today. Arsenal have announced their new manager when they've been looking for one way before we have. I think, was it December, January time when the Arsenal manager vacancy sort of came up when he said he's going or whatever at the end of the season. So they've had a 2 or 3 months head start on us to pick a manager to go out there and do their work, to do their due diligence and everything. Because we want to be smart. You don't want to be bringing anybody in for the sake of bringing anybody in. You want to be bringing the best person in, the best candidate in that you can bring in. And hopefully Manchester United have done their homework. They've done what we need to do to bring the best possible person in to come in and take over from Casey Stoney to hopefully bring us to the next level as well. And I've just seen a comment somewhere there. And they've done the complete opposite. They picked safe, well-known names that have failed multiple times already. That was one of my main issues when I heard about Martha Thomas, because someone that scored 4 goals last season, you're looking for a striker that's supposed to be lethal. For me, he's not good enough. We might as well kept Jane Ross, who scored 4 goals last season. So, but I'm gonna part that to the side, because I've heard from other people that she actually is a decent player. She's been struggling with injuries a little bit. So listen, and if it's one of those players that Casey Stoney is marked out, then hopefully it's one of them that just needs to, will thrive in a better side. Whereas I think West Ham was struggling last season. Let's be fair, So hopefully, with the likes of Leah Gold, Kirsty Hansen, Ella Toon, still got a decent squad there. Even if we do lose Lauren James as well, we've still got a decent squad there. So hopefully, someone like a Martha Thomas can come in and can get firing again and score the goals that we've been lacking last season. But we need to be smart in our business. It's just part of me is wondering whether we've signed some players that Casey was on Casey's list, and maybe because someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think the transfer window lasts till September, doesn't it? The women's game. Someone will correct me if I am wrong. So if we put it in maybe 2 or 3, maybe possibly 4 off what Casey Stoney had on her list. And then if the new manager's announced the next week or 2 or 2 to 3 weeks, we've still got enough time then for the new manager to go, look, listen, I think X, Y, Z could come in and do us a job. The United have still got a little bit of money, a little bit of a budget there to put in what that manager wants to put in. I don't think everything is going to be Casey signings at all. I mean, I could be completely wrong. And I know we've heard from people that said, if it's going to be a major signing, it'd have been all done by now, blah, 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 blah. But as I said, football's a funny old game, and never say never. The amount of times that we've always said never say never in the game of football, it's not over till it's over. It's not done till it's done, I think United probably may surprise all of us. Never mind saying a couple of people, maybe surprise all of us. Maybe they have got a little trick up their sleeves somewhere to bring in the talent that we need, as well as bringing established talent for the WSL. Listen, like I said on the Twitter, I can't remember what it's called now. Yeah, that thing. Like I said there, let's be fair, we still need to be looking at WSL talent because we still need the know-how and the experience of players playing in WSL to get us into the Champions League football. Remember, sometimes you could bring a player from abroad, like for example Jackie Groenen. It might take him a season to settle in. You know what I mean? Because Jackie Groenen, the first season wasn't the Jackie Groenen that we saw the second season. The second season, Jackie Groenen was far, far more the Jackie Groenen that we all expected to see. So sometimes you need to balance it. It's all about getting the right balance in the team and in the squad. People that I keep saying this as well. Why are we always saying overrated British and English players? Will correct me if I'm wrong. Manchester United is in the city of Manchester, which is in the country of England, which is part of Great Britain, the United Kingdom. Because of course we're going to sign British players and English players and develop them, because that's the Manchester United way. We always, if we can't bring anybody through the ranks, we always sign a British player, or an English player, whatever it may be. We'll always sign them. Maybe not every transfer window, but maybe every 2 or 3 to make sure we nurture the next British and English talent all again. You know what I mean? As I keep harping back to the Michael Carrick thing, Michael Carrick was absolutely hounded when we signed Michael Carrick. We got absolutely hounded for it. Oh, Spurs have pulled their pants down for that much. And that. Look at Michael Carrick, European Cup winner in 2013. He was arguably, along with Robin van Persie, our best player, winning the 13th Premier League title in Sir Alex Ferguson's final season. So, we've got to make sure we get that right, that right blend of experience, youth, British talent, the best foreign talent that we can find, and your hidden gems in that. And your hidden gems, like Owner. You know what I mean? I've never heard of Owner before. A lot of us didn't. You know what I mean? That's a hidden gem. So we've got to make sure we're doing our scouting right. We get everything right to give us the best possible opportunity to move forward. And I think people might just want to just lower their expectation a little bit, because the problem I see with fans as well is we're going to be, and I keep harping on about this, we're going to be the next Galacticos. We're going to sign this player, this player, this player. They're all Hollywood names. But we're Manchester United. We're not Real Madrid. We're Manchester United. We don't do that. We sign players. We make the world-class players. When Cristiano Ronaldo came, he was the one-trick pony that did a few step-overs. We perfected him with his hard work, perfected him to the guy that won the World Footballer of the Year at Manchester United. You know what I mean? Or he moved on to Real Madrid. And Wayne Rooney as well, wasn't the complete article. We need to make sure that we just level our expectation a little bit. Sorry, John, I know I
just want to go in, because obviously you talk about the Galacticos. There's some names on screen I just wanted to mention to you, because I think this is a good point. Jonathan, I mean, me and Ben are Hanson's biggest fans, but I do think that potentially we could see this next season Galton, Russo and Tooney at the front 3, unless if we'd signed somebody. Because we saw that towards the end of last season with Tooney playing out wide, and I think she's done a good job out there. I know she drifted in the centre quite a bit, but I think she looked dangerous by doing that. I mean, do you think that that's kind of feasible next season, playing Tooney instead of Hanson and that front 3? Because our midfield is stacked at the moment, and when Bo Risa does come, that'll be Bo Risa in the middle, Jackie, Hayley Ladd, Lucy Stan, Katie Zellum. That's 5 quality players to fit into the 3 holes, maybe the only way we can do that is to move Tooney out and put her out wide. What are your thoughts on that one, mate?
Well, I'll answer this pretty quick so we get Marty's thoughts as well. But what I will say is that it's not a given that anybody starts in this team. You've got a brand new manager, let's not forget. So favouritism goes all out the window. Just because your name's Ella Toon, Kirsty Hansen, Leah Golton, doesn't mean you're automatic starters. You've got to work your absolute arse off to get into the side again. You've got a brand new manager to impress. Whoever she or he may be, you've got a brand new manager to impress. So it's not going to be like, yeah, we're going to be comfortable. And on that, it's all about proving yourself. It's all about putting the hard yards in, the hard working on the training field. And when you get your chances on the field, to take them chances. People don't rate Kirsty Hansen. That's fair play. That's their prerogative. I love Kirsty Hansen, as people know. It doesn't worry me if she starts or doesn't start, because I know even if she comes off the bench, she makes an instant impact. She can make an impact. It's there. I even told her it's there for her to prove, to go out there, put the hard work in, and prove that she belongs. Everybody else can have their opinion. So long as the managers are happy with the players and the output they're putting in, it's no surprise she's got a 3-year deal, Kirsty Hansen. There's something in there. There's a player in there, trust me. It's just about nurturing her ability, training her talent, getting her to the next stage where she can be a player starting week in, week out. And that's still relatively very young as well. Once she gets to like Leah Golton's age of 25, 26, and she's still in and out and not really, then I'd worry for her. But at the minute, let her learn the game. Let her just eat. Just let her learn. Let her just soak everything in. And trust me, there's a player in there. And you know what I mean. No matter if we did put the front three of with Tooney on the right of that sort of attacking 3 there, I'm all for that. Tooney's done absolutely fantastic. But remember, before last season, there was a lot of talk about Ella Toon not being good enough, and then Tooney last season stepped up. And you know what I mean? I took it by the scruff of the neck, took that chance. But it's all about taking your chances. And listen, we've got a good young team there still. And as I said, it's all about finding that right balance. And we will get there at some point, But I'd like to hear what Marty thinks about that sort of maybe conundrum, if you like.
I think that we need to keep our young talent, including possibly Lauren James, because I was reading about how her brother might be going to Man City, and if he goes to Man City, there's a possibility she just may stay at Man United, and I think that would be awesome. Okay, we have really good young up-and-coming talent, and I hope that Russo's back in the mix. I have no problems with Hansen coming in off the bench, because I agree with Ben. It's that she's a powerhouse and she will make an immediate impact. I think Tooney is coming along. She's going to have a growth, linear growth, upward mobility on that. And, I do think that her assists, which she doesn't get enough credit for, are a huge part of her game. And as she continues to fine-tune her forward passing, it's just going to be awesome. I do think that it wasn't I think we got caught up in injuries, and they were at significant times, because we lost Leah, we lost Tobin, we lost Russo, we lost Lauren. I think our front 3 were always a patchwork. And if we can get, say, a solid 3 to 5, the front 3 and then the 2, subs, and they're continuing and they're healthy and they're running, I think our offensive production will be increased next year. We'll show an increase. I've always been more worried about our midfield, because the midfield to me is the key for transitions and also for stopping the bleeding. Okay, when the other team sort of is on a run and they just have all these magical touches, you need to stop the bleeding at some point. You need to just shut them down and make sure that it's not going to go any farther, and that you're not abusing the cornerbacks, the center backs, the TNT and that, because that's what happened in a couple of those games that we ended up losing, is that it was just relentless wave after wave after wave, and our midfielders were not stopping anything. And it just came down to, and at some point we're just going to crack, and we did, and we lost to Reading. If we hadn't lost to Reading, I think we would be in the Champions League. I think we would have gotten Champions League. I mean, one point it was like Arsenal just had to keep up with us for the last couple of matches. So I know we lost Tobin and we lost Kristen, and I'm sad about that, but I like the way the team's going to be. Nothing's going to be announced until they get the shirt, as soon as they get the shirt and they get because you sign somebody, the first thing you do is you give them a shirt, and you have the pictures with the shirt. So if they don't have a new shirt, they're not going to show whoever got signed or whoever accepted the contract. So they got to get their shirt design down. I'm going to miss the Chevrolet. I got to admit, I really like this shirt. I'm sad for that. So,
Marty, there's one last question just before we go.
Casey, San Diego. I don't know. Does she like hot, dry weather that everybody speaks is bilingual down there?
A lot of people talking about it.
Yeah. So and are her kids at an age where she wants to move them out of England and possibly end up with American accents?
Yeah.
That is definitely something. People, I can absolutely. She can definitely coach in the NWSL, and I would love to see her there. But whether she chooses to. Remember, not only is she leaving, but probably her whole coaching staff. So that also includes, I think, her father-in-law, right? If I'm not wrong on that one. Isn't he on the coaching staff? Because whoever the new manager is coming in, they're going to bring their own people. They usually do. So you revamp the whole thing because you're not going to bring them in piecemeal. You're just going to have, okay, this is the infusion, boom. And then everybody gets used to it.
I can see her going I can't see her going, unfortunately, to the States. Unless
I don't see it, but it's a possibility. I think Laura Harvey, it's very possible that, would she be lured back to England? She's a hell of a manager. She is really a good coach.
We'll have to do
She's now working for U.S. Soccer. So
yeah. We'll have to do a separate show where Casey might end up. We've just been so busy with the transfer windows and everything else. I do just want to finish the show just talking a little bit about Arsenal because we have got to pretty much go in about 2 minutes' time. But obviously, Arsenal have announced their manager. I don't know much about him, only from what I've heard about him today. I think you pronounce it Eidevall. I think that's how you pronounce it, Jonas Eidevall, from Sweden. So we've all praised up Swedish women's football today already. But what I liked a lot about him, obviously, I'm only going off quotes at the moment, but he's saying all the right things that I think Man United fans would want to hear. And I think Arsenal have come out of this quite well as well from the statements that the club's been making. So I'm just going to read a few things, and Matt Crane will talk about more of this in a lot more detail tomorrow. But basically what Eidevall said was, my philosophy is simple. There's only one ball and we want to have it. I want to play with high intensity, possession-based and attacking. Now, those three things there are obviously what a lot of fans would want to hear. That's exactly the style of play we want to we would want to play. And lastly, Arsenal have come out today and said that they're going to invest, increase investment, improve facilities, have more games at the Emirates, and increase the backroom staff as well. All things that, well, I don't know about playing at the men's ground, but also apart from those, are all things that Man United fans are crying out for as well. And I think a lot of WSL teams. So I know it's just PR, it's just a statement, but if Arsenal actually deliver what they say, then obviously that's a good move for them. It's what they need. And Marty, I'll just finish off with yourself. We spoke a little bit about Arsenal losing a top player a week ago. They could potentially lose another top player in Vivian. What are your thoughts on it? One of our biggest rivals next season in Arsenal. Can you see them kind of taking a step backwards or a step forwards?
It sounds like the head coach coming in, the manager coming in, is very good, has a very good track record, and was coaching a good team. I don't know. I really don't know about the European teams, but they also when Arsenal plays in Champions League, they're going to be playing against his old team. Okay, so if nothing else, he's got background on that. With regards to a lot of the players that are from the Netherlands leaving Arsenal, I want to know why. Why all of a sudden there's an exodus? Or do they want to play closer to home? Because they have obvious reasons for staying in England in the WSL. They don't have a problem there. It seems like it's a short hop travel wise. I mean, Jackie Gronin had said that her family used to come to every match, and that's what she missed most during COVID, was that her family wasn't coming. So, I want to know whether there's some backstory there, or were they worried about who the new manager was coming in? And if that was the case, why did it get announced so quickly for Van de Donk? Okay, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's just that they just need to change. That maybe it was no surprise. I mean, it was no secret. Okay, that in the past season, the Arsenal players were extremely unhappy with what was going on in the what we call in the dressing room, okay, like behind the scenes bit, as to exactly what the problem was and why they were as unhappy as they were. I never really got the full story of it, and they probably didn't say it. Yes, the PR is very, very good, and they ticked all the boxes for answering all the things that were addressed. But let's be honest, they had bad PR. During COVID. I mean, their Players Academy, which is very significant in England, not here, but in England, it's very significant that the Players Academy, the Youth Academy, those are valued very highly by everybody who supports the WSL and even the Premier League. It's like, you got to take care of the kids. You got to take care of the next generation. If you're not taking care of the next generation, there's something wrong with you. As a human being living in England, there's something wrong with you. So you got to straighten that out as a football club. And so, yeah, their PR was very, very good, and they were on point with all the issues that all the Arsenal fans and all the WSL fans were worried about. They're like, okay, is Arsenal going rogue? Is essentially the way I was looking at it. So, that's my take is I want to know, why is there an exodus? Is there also something? Remember, Netherlands is going to be getting a new head coach, and it's going to be Mark Parsons of the Portland Thorns once the Olympics are over, or I think it's the Olympics are over, or Euros. I'm not exactly sure when that transfer happens, whether it's after the Olympics or after next year's Euros that are being hosted in England. So I could be, I just don't have a for sure, but I know that Mark Parsons is going to be their new coach. Maybe, he has sort of said, hey, if you want to play for the national team, I would like to mirror what the U.S. does, which is you're going to have more camps, which means you're going to have camps when, it's not the window of having camps of the international play, and so therefore you have to be in a league that's going to allow you to leave, so which is what Jill Ellis did for the U.S. It's if you wanted to be a national teamer, you had to play in the NWSL, because the U.S. Soccer had control of the NWSL and said, we need these people for camps, for the national team camp, national team practice. You're not going to have them to play in the league. And so they didn't have them. So that's why our league doesn't shut down, is because if it shut down every time the national team had to go to camp, we wouldn't have many games. But we got a lot of people. We got a lot of players. So they just keep moving on. They just push forward. And hey, Christy Mewis and Jane Campbell will benefit. They benefited from it, because due to they were playing and excelling when everybody else was at the World Cup. So it works out. Other players shine. And when they shine, people are looking. People are watching. So that could be it. I just want to know why. I want to know why all of a sudden. So either it doesn't make sense. And anything that doesn't make sense to me means that there's information that I'm just not privy to.
Well, we've got Marissa on the show on Thursday. Marissa is an Arsenal fan. She's been on the channel before, so hopefully,
Maybe she knows.
yeah, hopefully we can find that. Definitely, yeah. And we've also got a Chelsea fan on the show on Thursday as well, so that'll be something to look forward to there. So yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you everybody in the comments. Thank you for everybody for watching. It's been a hour 15-minute show, very long. We could have gone into more detail now, don't we? It's great to hear your knowledge of the American game. That's why we get you on. So it's great to listen to. There's so much information there to take in. But hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Plan for the rest of the week. Matt's on Tuesday. I think I might be joining him. So we'll be talking a little bit about Arsenal and some other things as well, WSL based. Wednesday's a night off, unless if there's some breaking news. So, watch this space on that one. Thursday, myself and Ben will be back talking to Marissa and Rada. So just to see what some of our rivals are doing. Friday, as always, now is a Friday Night Fan Forum. Last week's Friday Fan Forum was the biggest one yet. Got over 300 people watching, which was absolutely amazing. So if you haven't watched that one, just whiz back at them. And Natalie was on there giving some very, very good points. And then Saturday, we'll end the week with the Ben and Matt show. So we'll have to see, unless if you've got an idea of what we're going to talk about at the moment, Ben. But I think at the moment...
Not at the minute, pal, no.
Yeah, breaking news every day at the moment. So I guess we'll see. So thank you to everyone for joining us. And we shall see you all tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks for inviting me.